Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from the Devil Wears Prada, Color Decay, out September 16th on Solid State Records. The album has 12 tracks, 44 minutes in length, and this is the band's 8th full-length studio record. They are an American metalcore band. As far as the design goes, think about this album as a journey of self-discovery, a journey of self-realization. And when you're on a journey like that, a personal journey like that, it's never linear. You never really know what the next step is going to bring you. You never really know when you turn the page what the next chapter is going to open up for you. So this album is a little bit like that. It becomes very chaotic within itself from song to song and within songs themselves. You're just never really sure what the album is going to give you, never really sure where the songs are going to take you. So this creates ebbs and flows. It creates a roller coaster ride. It makes the record super dynamic, super fluid, but very entertaining and very engaging because it oversimplifies things at times, and that makes the listener feel more engaged, more connected, and better understand exactly what is happening, even though you may not necessarily see where that final destination is going to be. It's also an album that has a lot of darkness, but it's not just about the darkness, it's also about finding the light in it. Whenever you're going through that process of self-discovery or self-realization, sometimes you feel alone in the dark, you feel like nobody understands you, and you're not necessarily exactly sure of who you really are. But I always feel like you have to look at your right, you have to look at your left, and you're always going to find people around you that love you, that care for you, that are going to help you through that path, they're going to help you through that journey. This album is a little bit like that. It shows you the dark side of everything that surrounds you, but it also shows you the human side in everything that surrounds you. So it has that sense of darkness and has that sense of light, a little bit of a yin and a yang, if you will. Incredible album because it offers that perspective, it offers that atmosphere, and then it represents it extremely well throughout the construction as you progress from song to song, from that first track all the way to the last track. As far as the soundscape is concerned, this is a heavy album, but it's not heavy as far as the one-dimensional approach. It's not like you have heavy drums and heavy guitars from start to finish, or heavy drums, heavy guitars, and heavy vocals from start to finish. This wouldn't be that much of a chaos, or it wouldn't be that much of a chaotic record if that's the approach that they took. I felt like they went in a different way. They went in a different path, or they took a different path. They decided to create an album that is heavy, but different elements are going to create that heaviness. Sometimes the guitars and drums, sometimes the vocals, sometimes the lyrical content and the emotions that come from it. Not using necessarily the same pattern, the same style, song in and song out, but rather designing an album that creates volatility and changes what element is bringing that heaviness to the table. Sometimes you're going to have songs that have incredible sound, very bright, very light, very thin, very stripped out even, and then the vocals come in with heaviness, or the vocals come in with melody, but they have a very dark and heavy message to them. And then there's tracks that don't hide anything. They're just pure intense and aggression from start to finish with heavy guitars and heavy drums. So it's an album that has a lot of different sides, that has a lot of different perspectives, but the overall sound quality is phenomenal. Because for all the layers that you have musically and vocally, for all the emotional baggage that this record carries, it's not an album that overburdens the listener. You don't feel drained at the end of this album. The soundscape, the experience that you get out of the soundscape of this record, it actually energizes you. It forces you to go back to it again because it gives you a sense of hope. It gives you a sense of meaning. So the sound, the quality of the sound, how crisp it is, how well defined it is without necessarily being overproduced is really important to drive this message home, this yin and yang between darkness and light, and perhaps finding that path towards the light and leaving some of the darkness behind. Within the sound experience, there are two elements that I feel like I have to mention because they have a very defined impact, even though that defined impact changes from song to song, sometimes even within the songs themselves, and that is the synthesizers, keyboards, and the guitars. The synths and keyboards on this album are way better than what I was expecting coming in. I was expecting them to be more one-dimensional, to have always the same approach, to have always the same outcome, and that's not the case. Some tracks, they have more of an impact. They're not necessarily the drivers of the experience throughout the entire record, or on any given song for that matter, but they always have a positive impact on the songs that they're in. Some songs more, some songs less, but always a positive impact. An impact in terms of how you define that sound, in terms of how you experience that sound, in terms of how they paint a picture of what the lyrical content, of what the topic is going to be, helping making the songs bigger, but at the same time sometimes helping the songs contract. The guitars are very much of the same. The guitars feel heavy at times, very powerful, driving the tracks, and at other times feeling a little bit more stripped down, a little bit more melodic, even melancholic, not necessarily forcing themselves to always be in one format, but rather morphing and moving in terms of what the track really needs of them. The quality that they provide to the overall sound is impactful, and you cannot deny it. These are the two main catalysts of everything that is happening sound-wise. This is not to say that bass and drums are not doing their part. They are, but they have more of a constant feel, or they're going more with the flow. They go with what's happening around them. Depending on where the guitars are going or what the synths are doing, that's where the drums and bass are following. So they don't have much of a lead role in terms of taking the pole position, if you will, on the experience of this album, but they still obviously impact the quality of the sound. But the synths / keyboards and guitars are definitely the two main elements that the band used on this specific album to create ebbs and flows, to create a roller coaster ride, to make a very dynamic and very fluid record. Vocally, the album has as much energy in it as it does in the sound. When I was mentioning earlier about being an album that's chaotic, having a little bit of controlled chaos, that chaos exists in everything that this album offers. It exists within your mind and how you perceive the world around you and how you perceive yourself. It exists in the soundscape that really quantifies those images on this record. And it definitely exists on the vocal performance, from cleans to harsh to screaming vocals, some more synthesized style vocals, almost bringing an industrial or electronic element to the sound and to the experience. This record really doesn't define itself on one style, on one lane. It's multi-directional, and I think that's the beauty of this record, and it's a beauty that stays consistent across all the elements. But the vocal performance on this album is really important. You cannot have an emotional driven album without having the vocals that transmit that emotion to the listener, that connect with the listener. When I was listening to this album, and perhaps this is the best way to really explain how I feel towards this record, I connected deeply with the lyrical content, with the sound that it created images around that lyrical content, and therefore with the vocals that brought that lyrical content to life. I felt like I was listening to pages of a diary that I never wrote, but I wish I did. That is the connection that I had with this album. I felt deeply connected to it because it felt like it was me. It was part of me. They were talking about me. Obviously they weren't, but I think we can all see ourselves within this record and within the experiences that it offers. I don't think I can give a better definition of what this album is all about, and I don't think I can give it a better compliment. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Noise. This is my favorite track on the album, and it's my favorite track because of the sound that it has, of how it builds, but more specifically because of the lyrical content. Now, it has a great guitar riff, it has a great guitar sound, it cuts through the noise, no pun intended, but that's how it feels. Vocally is very dynamic, it offers different styles, it offers different approaches throughout the entire song, always going with the direction that the lyrics are taking you, adjusting to those lyrics, adjusting to the mood or the specific moods, because I feel like this is a song that offers different states of mind within it, which makes it feel even more dynamic. There are melodic moments, and you see them in the chorus. The chorus is very robust. Layering of the vocals in the chorus, outside the chorus, gives the song more oomph, it gives the song more powerful, makes the song more powerful. But this track is defined by the lines, I can't sleep because the sky is falling, rest in peace, the noise is calling. I've never heard lines that were as impactful as these were, because they were a little bit of the definition of where I have been. So listening to this song, listening to that lyrical content, listening to how that lyrical content was put through, at times very melodic with a choir behind it, and then at other times a little bit more electronic, a little bit heavier, a little bit more stretched out, like you're ripping your vocal cords out. It's the absolute nail in the coffin for how the whole song feels and how this whole song is going to be perceived by the listener. Next we have Broken, more of I don't want to call this a ballad, it's not a ballad, but it has ballad-esque elements to it. It's very melodic, very calm in the verses. Now, from verse to verse, you see that there is an increase, there is a change, there is growth, but it still feels like it's the calmer part of the track. Perhaps also more introspective. Now, once you get into the chorus is more bombastic, the chorus has more energy, both musically and vocally, using cleans and harsh vocals. in a duality with one in the forefront, one in the background. This also gives more impact. It makes the vocal performance feels bigger. It makes it give it more depth to it. It has great strength within itself. It really allows that chorus to really pop. It really allows that chorus to really come and become the main focus of the song. It's a track that the title says everything. The title of the song, Being Broken, really represents the mood of the song and how you feel sometimes and how you perceive yourself within it. Incredible song all around. Last but not least, Trapped, the screaming vocals with a calming sound behind it create a great dissonance. Because on one hand, the sound feels peaceful. On the other hand, the vocals feel like absolutely gutted, like you're gutted. So it's a contrast that not always works well with one another because are two completely different worlds. But they created this symbiosis on this track that allows you to find that peaceful approach and still have that falling apart, that breaking to pieces right with it at the same time. The dynamic, the duality between the two, it was incredibly achieved within this track and becomes the motor of the song. It becomes the igniter of the experience of this song. A track that mixes pain, calm, suffering, inner strength. I mean, it just brings so many different pieces to the table. It just brings so many different emotions to the table, and you feel those emotions throughout the song because it allows the music sometimes to drop into the background and push the vocals into the forefront so you can better connect with the track from that point of view, and then using the music, the sound behind it, to move into the forefront to cover up everything else that's happening and allowing it to become a much bigger part of the overall atmosphere, of the overall sound experience. Phenomenal song as well, really well crafted, a track that has subtle ripples, but ripples that are needed in order for the song to have a little bit more life and not feel stagnant. This is it, The Devil Wears Prada, Color Decay, out September 16th on Solid State Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.